to the Middle East. Some say that the conflict has now become a regional conflict with, so what should the U.S. position be now and moving forward?
Well, we should support our allies, but we also should hold our allies to a standard. If there are international laws in effect, our allies, including Israel, they should abide by those rules and regulations, those laws. And I think moving forward, that's the stance that we should continue to take. And someone asked me once, well, Hamas and Hezbollah, they don't abide by international law. Just because the enemy does not abide by international law does not mean that we lower our standards. That's what makes America great. Let me say that again. Just because the enemy does not abide by international law does not mean that we lower our standards. That's what makes America special. That's what makes us a leader on the international stage.
Do you believe there should be a ceasefire, there can be a ceasefire, and that we can get the Israeli hostages home?
I think there should and can be a ceasefire. And our first priority should be to bring the hostages home. But there also should be a two-state solution. There is nothing wrong with the people of Israel having a secure place, a country that they can call home and feel safe in that place. And on the same side of the coin, Palestinians having a place that they can call home and feel comfortable in that space. I think the solution to this is a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire, releasing all the hostages and working on a two-state solution. The last thing that I would want to do is to put America's sons and daughters in harm's way. That's it.
The U.S. still has the conflict in Ukraine and with Russia. What is your position on that war?
We need to support Ukraine. We need to support Ukraine. Russia, in their invasion of Ukraine, 2 years ago, this war has been going on, I believe, over 2 years. The implications are so huge because if someone thinks that Vladimir Putin is going to stop at Ukraine, they're living in a fantasy land. Think about this. Poland borders Ukraine. Poland is one of our NATO members, and we have as one of our. Poland borders Ukraine. Poland is a member of NATO. The moment Vladimir Putin decides to go past Ukraine and start a conflict with Poland, we have an agreement in accordance with Section 5 of NATO that an attack on one is an attack on all. So that's why we have to stop Russia in Ukraine. And with regard to supporting Ukraine, we have to make sure that we help them financially now. Because either we invest in them now financially, or we risk putting our sons and daughters in harm's way later. So pick your poison. Pick your poison. Do you want to invest in them now to fight Russia's illegal invasion, or later do we want to send our sons and daughters over there? And being a veteran of war, and being a veteran who has fought in war, that's the last thing I want to do, is put our sons and daughters in harm's way.
The U.S. has a $35 trillion national debt. Can the United States continue to afford to support these wars, as well as deal with the recovery of the national disasters that we face and other domestic issues?
The better question is, can we afford not to support our allies with our national debt? The national debt is important. We need to make sure that we continue to work to lower the national debt, but that does not mean that we abandon our allies around the world. Think about Ukraine. It produces grain that produces food all around the world. Imagine if we did not invest in Ukraine and how much impact that would have on our economy. So we have to continue to invest.
Well, our position should be to thank Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu for eliminating 3 terrorist groups whose only mission is to eliminate the Jewish people from the face of the earth and the Israeli people from that area of Palestine. What possible purpose did Hamas have 1 year ago, October 7 of last year, other than to kill babies, rape women, behead innocent people who were just going to a concert? They had no purpose other than terrorism, and try to drive Israel off the little sliver of land that they've been occupying and frankly been doing better than anybody else in that neighborhood for 70 years or so. So yeah, to the extent Benjamin Netanyahu is helping to eliminate Hamas and their leadership, Hezbollah and their leadership, the Houthis in Yemen who are firing on our American ships, I think he's to be commended and thanked and congratulated. And the truth is those three terrorist groups are proxies for Iran. And Iran's not powerful enough to wage war against the rest of the neighborhood themselves. And so they let their little proxies do it. And I think it's a cowardly way for them to do it. And we need to show them that it's not working. The tragedy is, under President Trump's administration, we had the Abraham Accords. And the Abraham Accords amounted to more and more of the Sunni Arab countries coming together and shaking hands with Israel and saying, we know you're here. We know you've got nothing against us. We want to trade with you and want to live at peace with you and have a neighborhood that's free of violence. Saudi Arabia was about to join in on that. The Emirates and places like that were with our American leadership, and really couldn't have been done without American leadership. They were shaking hands with the Israelis and say, we're going to coexist. After 70 years of it sort of being hostile, and it's gradually gotten better and better. The Abraham Accords still have the potential to be one of the great accomplishments of this century, and the Iranians could not stand that fact. And so, again, they view us in the United States as the great Satan, and they want Israel completely out of there. Every single Jew from the sea to the river to be out of there. And it's anti-Semitism. It's the old, it's the age-old curse that civilized society has been resisting for years and years, and it needs to go.
The U.S. still has a conflict with Ukraine and Russia. What is your position?
My position is that the United States of America should keep its word. And that's another example where Ukraine is not asking us to help. What I object to is the Biden administration parceling out aid to Ukraine a little dribble at a time. The funds, the weapons that we're not using, that Congress has authorized President Biden to let the Ukrainians use, it should have been given to them as soon as the bill was passed. They are fighting Russia for their own country, and I think they're going to continue to defend their country. If somebody tried to take the southern part of our state away from the United States, we would resist that every way we could. And so I think the Ukrainians have a right to have a right to fight for their country. I think they're on the right side of history. We haven't had this sort of thing happen in Europe since Hitler, and it doesn't need to start again, where one country, just because it's bigger, just because it got more weapons, decides it can take over another country. And again, we're not being asked to send one single American boy or girl to that conflict, just to help them and keep our word. We told them, if you give up your Soviet-style nuclear weapons, we'll be your friend and we'll help you if you get invaded. That was our word. And what we're doing now is sort of halfway, keeping our word. I think we ought to give them the tools to win. And you know, when someone's fighting for their own country, they're going to be stronger than people imagine.
National security is just one item on a U.S. Senator's agenda. We'll talk economic policy with the candidates when this special edition of Mississippi Insight continues.